Good evening. It is Monday, June 13th, 2016. It is 7 p.m. and I call to order the first meeting in the month of June of the Speedway Town Council. This time I'd like to welcome other members of the Town Council with us present this evening. To my far right, Councilor Eileen Fisher.
Good evening.
To my immediate right, Vice President of the Council, Jeff Matthews.
Good evening.
To my immediate left, Councilor Gary Rakes.
Good evening.
To his left, Councilor Jason Delisle.
Good evening.
To his left, our Town Manager, Ian Nicolini.
Happy Monday.
And our Clerk Treasurer, Monty Combs.
Good evening.
Our agenda has been posted, which we will follow this evening. Before we begin the agenda, though, very early Sunday morning in Orlando, Florida, 49 innocent lives were lost in a shooting there in Orlando. At this time, the council, we are going to ask for a moment of silence for those that were killed in that shooting, please. Thank you. Thank you. Another thought about that, there are also 53 that were wounded in that shooting, and we just want to be sure and keep them in our thoughts as we continue on throughout the rest of the week. Back to our agenda. The first item on our agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. If everyone would stand, please. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 2 in our agenda is approval of the minutes from the May 23rd, 2016 Town Council meeting. Those have been distributed. Any corrections or changes to those? Hearing none, those will be accepted as presented. Item 3 in our agenda is approval of the memorandum for the May 23rd executive session. Again, those have been distributed. Any corrections? Hearing none, those will be accepted as presented. Item 4 on our agenda is approval of the memorandum for the June 3rd, 2016 joint executive session. Any corrections or changes to those? Hearing none, those will be accepted as presented. Item 5 is a public hearing, and it's for rezoning of 1.72 acres at 5225 West 10th Street. Ian, if you would explain, please.
Mr. President, as is contemplated in the rules of procedure for the Department of Metropolitan Development, rezoning petitions can be heard in public hearing either by the Town Council, or at the Metropolitan Development Commission. It's been customary and council policy to this point that those rezoning hearings be conducted at the Department of Metropolitan Development, and if that were to continue, Mr. President, a motion to direct the hearing action to the DMD would be appropriate and advisable.
Does the council have any comments or a motion?
I'll make a motion to redirect the rezoning to the DMD.
I'll second that.
There's been a motion and a second to move the public hearing for the rezoning to the Metropolitan Development Commission. Is that the correct?
Correct.
Okay. Any other comments from the council? Comments from the audience? Hearing none, we'll then call for the vote. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries 5-0. Item 6 on our agenda is Ordinance 1275, which is an ordinance establishing a debt management policy for the town of Speedway. Ian?
Mr. President, on items 6, 7, and 8 on your agenda, I need to recognize the efforts of my colleague Monty Combs, Clerk Treasurer. We've put a considerable amount of effort into developing policies and best management practices that relate to the financial management practices of the town. Granted, we have a number of policies in place, many of them formal or and fewer still informal, but we endeavored as fiscal officers of the community to put together a policy document that would serve to formalize our various financial management policies as contemplated in items 6, 7, and 8 this evening. Mr. President, ordinance number 1275 is an ordinance establishing debt management policy for the town of Speedway, Indiana, and has been read by title only on its first reading.
Mr. President, I move that we approve ordinance 1275 as presented.
Second.
Been a motion and a second to approve ordinance 1275 tonight on first reading. Any comments from the council or questions? Comments or questions from the audience? Hearing none, we'll then call for the vote. All those in favor of approving ordinance 1275 on first reading, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries 5-0. Next on our agenda is item 7, which is ordinance 1276, an ordinance establishing an investment policy for the town of Speedway. Ian?
Mr. President, as your first reading by title only action indicated, this is an ordinance to establish an investment policy. The town has the option and ability to take excess revenues and invest those pursuant to a number of state, federal, and local policies. This ordinance will formalize those policies.
Mr. President, I move that we approve ordinance 1276 on first reading.
Second.
A motion, a second to approve ordinance 1276 on first reading. Any questions or comments from the council? Comments from the audience? Hearing none, we'll then call for the vote. All those in favor of approving ordinance 1276 on first reading, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This carries 5-0.
Mr. President, I'm going to ask a question, maybe for some conversation amongst the council. If it wouldn't make sense, I mean, we've had some discussion on this. These are pretty clear-cut. If it wouldn't make sense for us to go ahead and approve these for second reading, meaning we need to suspend the rules for hearing them in separate meetings, but go ahead and move forward. Know what the thoughts are from the rest of the council. I just want to maybe talk about it before we...
Procedurally, Mr. President, you could suspend the rules and do for all three actions. If 1277 is in fact adopted on first reading, it'd be appropriate at that time and then solicit a motion to suspend the rules for all three. You could do it that way. You could do them individually, however you see fit.
Let's move on to 1277 first.
Great.
And then we'll go from there. Item 8 on our agenda is ordinance 1277, which is an ordinance establishing a reserves and
Liquidity policy.
liquidity policy for the town of Speedway. Thank you. Ian?
Mr. President, despite the tongue-tying nature of the ordinance, this one's fairly straightforward. In order to be able to satisfy our payment obligations and ensure that there's sufficient cash reserves on hand, and also the states in which those resources are held by liquidity in terms of their ability to be converted to cash quickly or easily. This policy sets forth guidelines and procedures on determining appropriate reserves and liquidity for town funds.
Mr. President, I move that we approve ordinance 1277 first reading.
Second.
Then a motion, a second to approve ordinance 1277 on first reading, which I will not read the title of again. Any comments from the council? Questions from the audience? Then call for the vote. All those in favor of approving ordinance 1277 on first reading, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It carries 5-0.
Mr. President, I move that we suspend the rules in regards to ordinance 1275, 1276, and 1277.
To move them to second reading.
To move into second reading.
I'll second.
It's been a motion, a second, to suspend the rules and move ordinance 1275, 1276, and 1277 to second reading. Any comments from the council? Then call for the vote. All those in favor of moving all three to second reading, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries 5-0. Then can the motion be made to move all three at once?
No, you need to read each one by title only for second reading.
Then we will then call ordinance 1275, which is an order establishing a debt management policy for the town of Speedway on second reading. Is there a motion?
Mr. President, I make a motion that we approve ordinance 1275, second reading.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second to approve ordinance 1275 on second reading. Any questions from the council? Questions from the audience? Hearing none, we'll then call for the vote. All those in favor of approving ordinance 1275 on second reading, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries 5-0. Ordinance 1276, on second reading.
Mr. President, I make a motion that we approve ordinance 1276, second reading.
Second.
So motion is second to approve ordinance 1276 on second reading. Any questions from the council? Questions from the audience? Hearing none, we'll then call for the vote. All those in favor of approving ordinance 1276 on second reading, say aye.
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 Opposed? Carries 5-0. Next is ordinance 1277.
Mr. President, I make a
second
motion
reading.
that
Sorry.
we approve ordinance 1277, second reading.
I'll second.
It's been a motion, a second, to approve ordinance 1277 on second reading. Any questions from the council? Questions from the audience? Hearing none, we'll then call for the vote. All those in favor of approving ordinance 1277 on second reading, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries 5-0. Monty and Ian, thank you. Good work.
Thank you.
Next is, we'll call it item 9, approval of claims and utility adjustments from our clerk treasurer. Monty.
Before you, Mr. President and council, we have the claims for the period of, since I can find it here, May 21st through June the 10th. And again, I would ask for your approval.
I'll make a motion that we approve the accounts payable for May 21st to June 10th.
Second.
And a motion, a second, to approve the claims as presented by our clerk treasurer. Any questions from the council? Questions from the audience? Hearing none, we'll then call for the vote. All those in favor of approving the claims as presented, say aye.
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 Opposed? Carries 5-0. Monty, utility adjustments.
Yes, sir. For the same period of time, May the 21st through June 10th, you have before you the adjustments on utilities. It's a short list, and again, would appreciate your approval.
Mr. President, I move that we approve the utility adjustments as presented by Clerk Treasurer.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the utility adjustments as presented by our clerk treasurer. Any questions from the council? Comments from the audience? Hearing none, we'll then call for the vote. All those in favor of approving the utility adjustments, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries 5-0. Monty, anything else?
Just one real quick thing. For the thousands that are watching, as you always say,
Yes, sir.
we had on Tuesday at 3 minutes till 5, one of our staff decided that she didn't want to work with us anymore without any knowledge. We had no knowledge or forewarning, so she said it was her last day. So I'm looking for a fourth member of my staff who can come in with some accounting background, hopefully. If anybody out there knows someone who's looking for a job like that, we'd love to talk to them.
Okay.
That's
Great.
it. That's all I have.
And the month of May's over.
Thank God.
Yes, sir.
No offense, Dave, but
Monty, you shared some things with me privately, just one-on-one. You want to talk about the parking receipts and some of those activities? Just a general report?
you mean the voluntary
Yes. the
effort
thing
I
you-
put
the thing you
forth that I'll
volunteered
never
for,
do
yeah.
again. We did work with the redevelopment commission on the parking, the properties they had. Obviously, the month got longer and longer as I went through it, but at the end of the day, we were able to raise $100,000 for the coffers for the redevelopment commission, just over $100,000. And I know their process is going to be somewhere down the road as far as sharing that with the schools of Speedway and the different groups in the schools of Speedway.
Do you have any idea how that compared with past year's month of May?
Last year, from a report we received, was for May was 71,400, if I remember correctly. So we were very pleased. Granted, there was a little more demand and less supply, which helped us some. That I accounted for about 15,000 of that, to be honest with you. But we had, and honestly, probably the biggest problem we had was some short of volunteers. We were short about 8 or 9 people on race day, which made it more difficult. But overall, we made it through it, and I managed to survive the following week, and things are good. So we'll see what the redevelopment commission comes up as far as their plan, as far as sharing those with the schools.
Anything else? Thank you, Monty.
Thanks, Monty.
Thank you.
Next is a report from our town manager, Ian.
Well, Mr. President, I'd like to do a quick recap of our month of May here as an organization and as a community. And I got to tell you, I'm so thankful to the members of our team, to the volunteers, folks at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, to our merchants and business owners. we could look at a number of metrics as to determine whether or not we felt, how we felt about the month of May. And I think, breaking ground on redeveloping the Rosner building and announcing that Wilcox is moving their headquarters to Speedway, or groundbreaking on the new Noah's Animal Hospital and Surgery Center on Crawfordsville Road, receiving requests for proposals, Wilshaw beginning their process in earnest, the opening of Legends Plaza, and all of the improvements that took place as part of Project 100. The fact that for a brief period of time, the town of Speedway got more television coverage than anyone running for president locally, as it were. We became the 57th largest city in the United States. I've petitioned our congressman to change the census date to the Sunday before Memorial Day.
And we were the largest town in the world, correct?
Yeah, that would have been it. We did so with sort of minimal negative interactions. It was a positive. There was a positive vibe on race day, which that's the one thing you really can't quantify and have a difficult time pointing to. But it was like a joyous occasion. We partnered with the Indianapolis Motor Speedway to come up with ways to get the gates out, bumped out around the elevators to make for a safer experience. By all accounts, that worked really well. You had gates open at 11 o'clock without lines, despite the crowds. Now, I know there were some traffic hang-ups, and it's not totally positive, but that's sort of a gathering where one out of every 950 people in the country is in one location. Especially a location 5 square miles with 12,000 people on any other day makes for some logistical challenges. But I will say that our team, police, fire, streets, parks, did an excellent job, and I'm just super proud of the leadership. I'm super proud of the efforts of the schools and our businesses, and I'm very, very pleased with how that turned out. But I'm going to be honest, because I want to yield some time to Dave, too, to kind of talk about their experience. I should, of all the people who had to put up with something in the month of May, I need to thank my wife, Colette, for first of all, letting me work a few 16-hour days when she was in labor, but also for giving me probably the most special experience I could have ever imagined, birth of our daughter, Evie. And so that was my month of May. I'm going to go take a nap after this.
Pretty uneventful.
But I do want to yield some time to Dave Shaw with the Indianapolis Motor Speedway to kind of talk about their experience.
Thank you, Town Council. And a lot of my comments are echoing exactly what Ian just said. The initial round of feedback to the race has just been overwhelmingly positive, and a lot of the props are coming at the staff of the Speedway and a few of our leaders. And my first response is, man, this doesn't work without the participation of, number one, the town of Speedway, number two, public safety officials, number three, the Windows Department, Speedway Fire, all of those agencies, but then most importantly our fans, because they actually listened and they paid attention. My best analysis of how we started on race day, I had a meeting at 6 a.m. Well, we had a breakfast at 5 a.m. with our staff, and then we had I had a meeting at 6 a.m. I was supposed to meet these folks at Gate 9A, which is at 25th and Georgetown, basically, and the guy called me at 10 after, and he said he was stuck in traffic. That's never happened at 6 a.m. on race day. So, the only way that it worked as well as it did was with the participation of the fans that came to the racetrack from all over the world, but also the residents of the town of Speedway. Like, I think a lot of you know, my grandmother lived in Copper Tree Apartments for 40 years, and so I know firsthand what an impact the race has. And this year, more than ever, literally more than ever, in the 99 runnings of this thing, it was that much more impacted. So, I mean, I had long conversations with most of you. I mean, Monty, I talked to you for an hour the day before the race about a parking thing, and Ian and Gary and Dave. So we're just really grateful the fact that how well it went. It was a very well calculated plan on our behalf, but that plan doesn't amount to squat unless we have the support of the town of Speedway, the residents of the town of Speedway, public safety officials, and then most importantly the fans. To give you some quick feedback, some takeaways from the race, we're just overjoyed. I mean, we're 349 days until the 101st running. We're all kind of sick of the countdowns, but that's enough.
That's enough.
The email came out today how to reset your 100th running timers that I think a few of you have, and I threw mine away. So
It's pretty menacing.
yeah, so we have a staff appreciation event on June 21st just for Mark Miles and Doug Bowles and Allison to show their appreciation of the staff. But I mean, we keep getting all this positive feedback, and so we're just really proud. I mean, it was the most difficult month of any of our lives professionally, but it was worth it at the end of the day. So I can answer any questions or just please walk away with my sincere appreciation for all of you folks, as well as the town, as well as Chief Campbell, Chief Fishburne, Wendell, et cetera, et cetera. Thank you.
Mr. President, I can be brief too. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you have a question?
No, I was just going to say, just be thankful it wasn't the race like at Texas this past weekend.
It's hard to watch.
Good, Ian.
I learned what a weeper was.
Yeah.
Weepers. Speaking of weepers, I got an update on the dry run diversion project. How's that for your transition? The dry run project's going exceptionally well. We're in the last stages of getting our permits from the state. Dave and the team at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway is helping us out with one more round of easements that are required as part of our state permit, but that's really just related to starting construction. So once the final permit is in hand, we're going to be able to get the construction work scheduled. But, anytime you're dealing with state and federal agencies and you need a multitude of permits, it's always going to be a bit of a challenge. But I do have to give our team, especially Jeff Fox at Christopher Burke Engineering, a shout out for making sure that process is moving as quickly as it does. Because I've seen Army Corps of Engineer permits take years. And the fact that we're on pace, I'm excited about. We're going to be following up with some additional information about the project and kind of about the next steps once we get into the construction phase. But it's proceeding, moving forward. And those are probably the two most substantive updates I need to provide this evening, Mr. President. In the interest of brevity, I'll yield the remainder of my time.
Thank you. Next is a report from our council members. We will begin with Councilor Eileen Fisher.
Well, I just wanted to extend the thanks to our employees and the hard work that they have done through the month of May for all of them. I mean, it was amazing to see how busy it really was for more than just that one day. And they even came out, the cleanup afterwards. I have to thank the track because I can recall back years ago when it took weeks to clean up the trash around the areas and stuff, and you don't see that any longer. And I think that's huge and says a lot about our community and stuff. So, just thank you for everyone's hard work. It was amazing.
Great. Thank you. Next, we will have our Vice President of the Council, Jeff Matthews.
Yeah, I echo what Eileen said to Dave's team. Fantastic job. All of our departments were just fantastic, spot on, and everything ran perfectly as far as I know. Crime seemed to be down somewhat. I think everybody was in the vibe like Ian had said. So great month of May. Looking forward to next year. Relay for Life was this past weekend. Hot weekend. Unbelievably hot. Last total, they are at about $85,000, which is pretty impressive. Yeah, they're still counting money. So, a lot of great volunteers that participated. But I want to give a special shout out to the Citizens Academy and the Speedway Police Department and the Marion County Prosecutor's Office. They were out all day long on Saturday, just working it in the heat, and it definitely didn't go unnoticed. So, thank you. That's all I have.
Great. Next is Councilor Gary Rakes.
Wanted to say one thing. in a moment, but Lisa Schmidt sent me an email this morning and asked to yield some time. So if you wanted to come up, Lisa.
Good evening, Council. As you recall, recently I presented in front of you a request to change an ordinance related to having chickens. Urban farming, if you will. I brought a book with me tonight in case any of you have any questions related to that. There's a lot of support in town for this initiative. This is a request that we made some 6 months ago, and I know we've had a lot of things going on in town, the month of May especially, but as we all know, this town represents more than the month of May. So I'm here to answer any questions that you may have and ask you respectfully what we should do next to get this on the council's agenda.
I will say that you've not gone away from the radar. Last month was a very busy month. I suspect within the next month that we're going to be looking at something on the agenda to bring this up and have some discussion about it.
Okay,
So you have not been forgotten.
thank you.
So I know some of the council has questions.
Sure,
So we may be reaching out to you and to others to follow up on that.
absolutely.
So I will be in touch. I know Gary has talked to you as well.
Yep,
So we'll be in touch, and we'll let you know when it comes up on the agenda, and we'll go from there.
that sounds great. You all have my email address and my cell phone number, so we're available.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The second thing I wanted to mention was, I think it's the third, maybe the fourth year, that a group of folks from other states connected to World Changers is the name of the organization. There's 60 kids plus roughly 10% adults on top of that in town this week. There's 220 kids next week, about 20 adults. All totaled, well over 300 people that are simply doing work on people's homes, trying to chip in and volunteer their time to help people make improvements in landscaping to improvements on their homes, from as much as replacing doors to painting trim. I totaled it out, just a simple figure, it's $150,000 in free labor. And I think it's fantastic they're doing that. So you'll see some folks in town this week and lots more next week, but I just want to thank them for their work. And, I guess one more thing would be to just congratulate Indianapolis Motor Speedway. What a great partnership we have, and a great namesake, I guess, we are of yours, of IMS, and we wouldn't be Speedway without it. So you can't say enough great things about the month of May. That's it. Thank you.
Great. Next is Councilor Jason Delisle.
Well, not to beat a dead horse here. Month of May was fantastic. I think we all agree. Congratulations to IMS for running an excellent event. I was there as a fan, and it was fantastic. Same thing, I echoed Jeff's comments about Relay for Life as well. That was always a great event there. It was hot, but I hadn't heard any numbers in terms of money, so that sounds fantastic. That's it for me.
Great. Next would be my report, but before my report, Councilor Marilyn Feaster from the City County Council is here, and I'll yield some time to her. Would you like to address us tonight?
Thank you very much, President Lindsay, and I appreciate all of you making me welcome. I would like to echo what Ian said and what Mr. Shaw said about the race and about all the things that have been going on in Speedway. But just on a personal note, I parked cars for the Speedway Lions Club for 15 hours in the days preceding the race, and you see some very unusual and very interesting things. But I know what an impact that had on the Speedway Lions Club finances, which will be coming back to Speedway schools and Speedway parks and a variety of other things that the Speedway Lions Club supports. And so I know the trails, parked cars, and so the impact of this race cannot be overstated for the town of Speedway. There were public and private, official and unofficial folks who contributed lots and lots of time, blood, sweat, and tears to make this successful. And so I would like to please convey my thanks to IMS and also to all of you for all the work that you did to make this a very special year. And I'm prayerful that everyone that was there this year is going to re-up for next year, so we can do it all over again. Speedway absolutely is a shining star in the central part of the United States and all over. So, moving on to my announcements, there is a job fair that is scheduled for this Wednesday at the Pike Performing Arts Center from 10 to 2. So if you're aware of anyone that's looking for a job, there will be 72 companies that are there hiring at a variety of levels, a variety of skill sets, a variety of jobs. So check out the Pike Performing Arts Center from 10 to 2 this Wednesday. And I will be having a town hall meeting here on July the 14th. And we're going to be discussing, among other things, the mass transit referendum. As many of you know, there will be a referendum on the November ballot to determine if taxpayers want to support mass transit going forth, which would be 1/4 of 1 cent or 0.025 taxes on income to support mass transit, which would mean some buses are going to be there every 10 minutes, bus hours would be extended for 21 hours, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I wanted to present a balanced view, both the pros and the cons for this issue at that town hall meeting. So please join me at 6:30 on July the 14th, right here, and we'll have a discussion. Thank you so much. Yes?
One quick question. That mass transit, is that just having or just concerning bus? Or
It
are there
is
other-
concerning the bus, yes. The rail was considered long ago, and we determined that it would quadruple the expense for mass transit. And so they're just looking at the bus at this point in time.
Marilyn, you mentioned the percentage. Tell us that percentage again of annual income.
It's 1/4 of 1 cent on every $100.
Thank you.
Okay? Any other questions? Thank you. You ask astute questions as always. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally is my report, and I'm going to make Jerry work here real quick. This, the vice mayor of Motegi, Japan, who is our sister city that we have, the vice mayor from Motegi, I don't remember his official title, the superintendent of the schools, and their translator they sent me an email, I believe in February, and said that they wanted to come to the 500-mile race. So we finally arranged it, and I think in April we figured out it was going to happen, and I asked if they had tickets, and they said no. But long story short, they came in for a visit. They came in Friday, carb day at 2:30, and then left Monday morning. We got up at 4:30 in the morning to take them to the airport. And I don't think I've ever seen so many people in one place at one time. They actually wanted to stay. They didn't want to go back to Japan. But we, as part of, if anyone knows the Japanese culture, they always give gifts. And this was another gift from the town of Motegi to the town of Speedway. And Monty, if you can display this for some time in the town hall, it even has a letter here that explains it in Japanese and in English. But the visit from them was I should mention Nancy Lawrence, who helps run everything when it comes to the Motegi trips. The translator, Noriko, stayed with her, and the superintendent of the school stayed with Bob Hunt, and the vice mayor stayed with myself and my family. And we didn't think he would speak any English, but he did very well. We had a great time with him. We showed him Main Street, showed him Big Woods, showed him Speedway indoor karting, Rockin' on Main. I walked him down Georgetown Road the night before the race. I show the other side of the town because they've been here when it's quiet, and the superintendent was here last August, and we gave him a tour of the track. So for him to see it quiet and then with the stands filled, he was amazed. So I want to thank everyone that when they came up and they saw us and they said hi, and we met a lot of people in town. The police department provided them an escort to the race. the translator, I have to say one thing, that night after the race, we all met for a dinner, and she gets out her phone and she shows the video of the entire police escort. And while she's showing that to me, she points to herself and she says, "Paparazzi." So I think that was the highlight of the trip. So I'd like to thank everyone that was involved with that. It made for a longer weekend, but that relationship continues to build. We have 16 students that have been selected that are going to Motegi over fall break in October. So they got to experience some of the culture when they came to visit, and it was just an incredible experience. As everyone knows, I've kind of got a passion for it. I went there 2 years ago, and it's just a wonderful experience. I also want to thank the town employees for their hard work. For the thousands that watch at home, know that our first meeting of the month is when we have our department heads come in and report. We gave them the night off tonight. They've had a long month, so we gave them the night off to go home and rest. Thank the Motor Speedway and the relationship that we built over the past year, and actually since I've been on the council. It's wonderful, Dave, you and your staff. Just the work that we've done together and the work that you've done to make the town grow. It's a building relationship. Thank you very much. Relay for Life, I was not there. I had a prior commitment, but I hear the crowd was great. It was hot, as I've heard. That's always a wonderful event. And I need to mention on Thursday nights, don't forget the concerts at Meadowwood Park. That's started back up. And with that, we will adjourn the meeting, unless I think Gary has one more thing.
I do. I've been remiss in not mentioning, on Wednesday evening, 11 students from Verano, Italy,
Yes.
our Italian sister city, arrive at the airport. They're pretty much going to go straight to their homes and go to bed, because they'll be on Italy time. And actually Thursday night, I think they'll be in the park for that concert. And then they'll be at various places around town. They're taking a trip to Louisville to see some things down there. They'd planned to go to the Muhammad Ali exhibit, which might be a little busier than what it would have been a month ago, but that's probably a good thing. And they'll have a chance to do all things Hoosier, and we think that'll be pretty special. So if you're at the park on Thursday, you'll have a chance to see them. I think Friday they'll be at Big Woods, kind of have a private area within the garden there to view a movie. Our kids viewed a movie when we were over there, and just some great things that are happening. And then at the end of the trip, next Saturday, a week from this Saturday, everybody will board a bus. This is the fun part, and drive all night to D.C., spend the day in D.C., get on the bus again, go up to New York and spend the night in New York. They'll see New York the next day, and then they'll fly home, and the kids and a few of us adults will drive back from New York. So the bus trip won't be all that fun, but we were on trains. We were in Italy. They had a few more of those than what we do here. Yeah. But it's another terrific program. I'm sure there'll be reports on that after they've come and gone. So thank you. I'm sorry for forgetting to announce it earlier.
No, that's very important. And if you see them in town, I know I'm sure it's the same for the group coming in. They love the interaction from the people in town. If you come in, say hi to them. When we were in Japan, they all came up to us because they like that they speak English. They're learning English, so they like to test it out on us. So whenever you see them in town, come up, say hi. They really enjoy it. So with that, we will adjourn tonight's meeting at 7:38.